You're like hundreds of recordings.
Oh wait,
I every fucking time I still do
geez.
it. We're here though, everybody. Hi.
Hello.
I just for a little behind the scenes content for you listeners out there. I always forget that there's a second step that I need to do to start a recording after I press the record button. So I have to like name the recording and shit for it to save. And so I'm always like, all right, guys, 3, 2, 1, record. And then I'm like, oh wait, fuck.
Wait.
Wait.
And you had to go to Dollar General and get new headphones.
Yeah, I'm in a
that's
bad
the
place.
real.
My headphones fucking shat the bed, and
He's in a tech blender right now. Tech hell.
Yeah, mentally, I'm in hell.
I thought, you know how it's like my dad was always like, you give a big speech and you want to loosen up the crowd with a joke.
Yeah,
like so Hitler. I thought Hitler didn't make any jokes. I don't think he was just. He just had electric rhetoric, but
Matt is just fully embracing his every fucking
defending Hitler already.
What do you mean? Paul brought it up. Paul's the one.
Paul didn't bring up Hitler, did he?
He just did.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
But I did.
My
it
headphones suck
for a reason.
Yeah, to get me going.
Are they gonna work? Are you gonna get it? Are you gonna get through?
Yeah. No, it'll be okay.
Okay.
So. I was thinking of I thought of 4 berry-related jokes. Berries, like that you eat. So what's an old person's favorite berry?
Elderberry.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
What is a berry that's just for the fellas?
Boysenberry.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, you're good at this.
Damn. All right. What is the best berry when you're sad?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know.
Blueberries.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And what's a smoker's favorite berry?
Nicotine berry.
You got a guess, Paul?
Give me a clue.
No.
That is the clue. The question is the clue.
Yeah.
Wait, I forgot what it was already. Can you say it again?
What is a smoker's favorite berry?
Smokers.
Jewelberry.
You wish.
Moolberry.
That's funny. I like that, but that's more of a spelling joke.
Yeah. Everyone loves a little spelling humor.
What is it?
Paul gives up.
It's raspberry.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's kind of a stretch, but I like it.
All right.
No, come on.
So you just made those up yourself?
Yeah.
Well,
I saw
cool,
elderberry. Man. I saw some sort of elderberry thing today, and then my mind went on a whole list, and I was like, and this is how you loosen up a crowd, and now you're ready to give
now you guys
PowerPoint presentation or whatever.
Yeah.
What I'm confused about is, does that have anything to do with the book?
No, dude, it's an icebreaker.
Why did you pick berries?
Because I randomly saw it today, and I thought of those jokes.
Okay.
I
was confused about the.
There's not a tie. There's not a thematic tie-in to the.
We were just loosening up the crowd, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Here, I'm
on board now.
Thought of one. What's the best berry to have with a 40-ounce big gulp from 7-Eleven?
Strawberry.
Yeah,
that's great, good. Dude. I'm gonna add that. Now I got what? 5 berry jokes.
5 berry jokes, dude. That's pretty much a tight 15 stand-up set right there.
I can do a little Mitch Hedberg deadpan delivery situation.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
anybody.
We did read
a whole book.
We did, yeah. It's The Trees by Percival Everett.
Trees.
And So this is our second Everett book, right? The other book of his that we read for the show was my favorite book last year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Percival
It was
Everett
my
by
pick.
Virgil Russell.
Now, this is Paul's pick, right? So, Paul, why don't you go ahead and lead us through the best of your abilities, synopsis, and then a description of like why you chose it.
Okay. Well, first of all, for whatever reason, I decided to write the intro this time.
First of
Which I've
all, this is the Spinecrackers podcast, and
Oh yeah.
I'm
Paul.
Matt. Yeah, Matt. Yeah.
I haven't written an intro. I for like the whole time we done the podcast. I did it for Hume's Will before we started recording.
just because you hated that fucking book.
Yeah,
so
the
much.
book.
I know,
made
and
you
I didn't
so
hate
mad.
this book. Yeah, I just
wanted
needed
to-
to get my thoughts out.
Yeah. You want
but
to
I just wanted
crystallize
to-
your hatred, which is not for this one,
Yeah.
but for that one. Yeah.
No, but yeah, this one I just like an hour or two ago. I was like, I'll just write something.
All right, I love that.
So
All right.
I'm gonna read it.
I love
I
it.
love this,
There might be typos, and it might not make sense because I wrote it really quick. But here
but
we
you
go.
can read them out of existence.
We're switching up the format.
Yes.
It's the switch up.
Percival Everett's Trees. In short, is a. I already made a typo. In short, is a satirical-ish detective story, a whodunit, a mystery that's encapsulated by laugh-out-loud humor, but at its very clear core is less a critique and more a blatant display of the thriving, deeply rooted racism that seems to reside in, but is not limited to, the deep south of Mississippi. How's it sound so far? Pretty good?
That's great, man.
I
All right.
love it. Keep it
it
rolling.
up. Yeah.
It's actually kind of long. I'll try to read fast. It begins with a few
God,
grisly
so
murders of white
bored,
men.
dude. I'm kidding.
It begins with a few grisly murders of white men, strangled, throat slit, barbed wire garnished, balls removed and in the hands of a dead black man who also appears to be a victim at the scene. Why are you laughing?
Just because you said balls instead of like testicles.
Yeah,
Balls.
I wanted to write balls.
Yeah.
More of these murders began to happen. More white men are found each time with escalating brutality, but the body of the same black man keeps disappearing from the morgue and appearing again at each of the new crime scenes. Whoa. The story follows two notably black MBI agents, Ed and Jim.
Did you write whoa?
No.
Damn.
Two MBI agents, Ed and Jim, who are called in to investigate. MBI being an acronym for the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, which I am not sure is real or not. As I am writing this, I realize I could look it up right now and solve my own little mystery, but I have decided not to.
Okay.
As the number of murders began to escalate and spread from Money, Mississippi to other cities all over the country, the detectives began to track down the mystery, discovering clues, etc., as detectives do.
It's real. It's real.
I'm going to get there. Within the first half of the book, it is revealed that the three initial white men murdered were descendants of the murderers of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old black teenager who was abducted, tortured, and lynched in 1955 in Money for allegedly saying hello and whistling at a young white woman. That woman being Caroline Bryant, who years later said she made it all up. She is in the book and she dies. I wrote that. The characters in the book begin to believe that the body of the unidentified black man traveling from murder scene to murder scene and vanishing from the morgue with no explanation must be the ghost of Till. Although we have found out that this is not the case, and the events of the story all have real-world explanations. However, in my opinion, there is an unbelievability to the story, but that comes in much later, and I'm sure we will discuss it. Okay, this is the last paragraph. The things that stood out to me the most during the read were A, the humor. This is a very funny book with witty dialogue that had me lolling, or for the boomer, laughing out loud. LMFAO, if you will. Two.
Our many boomer listeners.
So that was A. Two, this was written during the Trump presidency and feels very much of that time and that not too distant period. D, I was expecting something with a bit more depth from what I've read so far of Everett, which is just one book. I was expecting something like a philosophical paper I've never heard of. Sorry, I can't read. From what I've read so far of Everett, a book within a philosophical paper I've never heard of, within a postmodern framework while being anti-postmodern or something. What I was what I was bracing myself for. Perhaps a lot of things went over my head, but it seems to be fairly cut and dry, deeply real and saddening and terrible and definitely worth a read for sure, but confusingly reactionary. Thank you. Let's end the podcast right now.
That was good. I like those.
That's Paul's review.
They have a way more of like a news bulletin feel when you do them that way.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it every time. It's fun.
I like it. Switching it up.
And why did you choose it?
Well, I chose it because I love the Percival Everett, the last book we read a lot. It was like I think I gave it 5 bags, and I was just excited to read more. And I had started this book. I got like a third of the way in earlier this year, and then I kind of just lost track of it. And I was like, well, the best way to finish it for me would be to just add it to the list, and then I'll make sure I'll read it. Yeah. So that's basically why I chose it.
Well, and this book has been somewhat hype, right? Like, it's sort of made the rounds on Bookstagram and BookTube, and various people have done reviews of it. And I think it was just nominated. It was just longlisted for the Booker Prize this year. Recently.
Yeah, that's the big one.
So
I think like what's funny is like doing this, and we had meant to do this earlier, but like, yeah, over the last couple weeks to a month, there's been a lot more booktuber content out about it.
Yeah. I remember looking it up like
Sean
months ago.
Did a review. Travel through stories.
Sean was one of the first to kind of like actually like review it, but like I said, like in like the span of 2 weeks, there's been like 4 other things that I saw where it was like sudden interest in like reviewing this because of the Booker, I think, specifically.
Which, I love to see, because Percival Everett has quickly becoming one of my favorite modern authors. This is my 3rd book of his that I've read. Obviously the podcast, this one, and then I also read I Am Not Sidney Poitier. And so he seemed previously to this book to be like just criminally under-read, under-discussed in online spaces, and all that.
Yeah, he's been running for a long time.
Super prolific. He's got like 30 40 books. Yeah
it's pretty nuts. And I don't know, I have something to say about that. It feels a little bit like Scorsese or somebody getting nominated for like an Oscar, or winning an Oscar, like just because it was something that was it was a crime that he had not won one, but he won one for maybe not the right project. I guess is my
like
not to give my shit away. So
spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. Not to give my sort of position away yet about it, but
well, it's okay. So, I kind of gave away mine in my little spiel too.
I mean, I think, Paul, what you said is one of the things that hit me before we like dive into the plot more, is that this feels like a departure from the other 2 books of his that I've read, in the sense that those books are much more, meta fictional and have a ton of like very weird, surrealistic, absurdist elements. And this book does have that, as well, as we'll get into, but it's much more just on a prose level and a moment to moment unfolding of events level, I would say, straightforward than the other books of his that I've read.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting, because I came across like some clips and interviews and speeches and readings he's done on YouTube, which are all awesome for the most part. He's like the coolest guy ever. I had a dream about him the other day, and we were just driving around with our friends. I just think he's like the coolest guy.
Oh, that's so cute.
It was cute. But there's a really good sound clip, like a 2-minute video, where he's talking about like Americans and just how the general American is just like anti-intellectual, and it makes him really sad. And not that this book is anti-intellectual, but it's like, as you just said, it's like a far cry apparently from the rest of his books and what he usually does. Like perhaps he might have dropped a certain levels of how he writes to appeal to a bigger audience, and it does kind of make me sad that if he did do that intentionally or even not intentionally, this is the one that's getting recognized.
Well, I think
possibly because it's easier to understand for like a majority of people.
Well, I think it is interesting that this is the one that's getting the recognition, and it's being praised to the walls for being like kind of a, a quote unquote gut punch and super visceral and whatever. And it's in the form of like a hard boiled, right? Like pulp detective story. And I think that's like an incredibly calculated. Like, I don't think, I think Everett is being super intentional by kind of doing the thing where like kind of like what Lynch did a little bit with like Twin Peaks, where it's like kind of a soap opera, but he's just talking about like the yogic cycles of civilizational like death and whatever. But he uses like teens in a small town in a soap opera format to like get you to buy in, and that's what this feels like. It's like it's in this kind of super readable, propulsive format that's by its nature simplistic, to try and do a pretty grand, like a pretty like ambitious, for the throat excoriation of America and its racism, and including like characters and stuff that would normally be in these kind of pulp fictions, but you know what I mean? Like taking them seriously and using them to like piss off the people that he wants to piss off and draw in the people that he wants to draw in.
Yeah.
Well, and also, using Trump and having a Trump monologue at the end as well.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. We'll talk about that probably at some point, maybe in the Patreon segment, but I think, Matt, you mentioned the propulsive way that it's written. It is so fast moving and so quickly paced. Like there's 108 chapters or something in this book, right? It's like, and the average is like a page and a half. You know what I mean? Like,
and sometimes it's mostly dialogue, and which means it's all broken, indented, and so it's very.
There's a couple that are just a paragraph. There's one or two that are just like one line.
So I wanted to take a picture of, because a couple pages is just like one page, and then the next page is just two chapters.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting choice on his part too, and I think it definitely serves to kind of like, heighten that sense of momentum that the book has. And I think particularly early on, he really like nails the tone and the vibe of like that kind of hard-boiled detective story, like you were talking about, like with the setup and the whole mystery of these brutal murders with the same dead body showing up at all of them. It's really fucking effective and creepy, and you're like, what is going on here? And it's very just weird,
I was also thinking about the fact that, like obviously the Emmett Till murder is such a infamous case and such like a sort of something to direct exhibit A, right, of like just a sort of like historical like wrongs done and the racism that existed in like the post-Civil War and what Jim Crow and all that shit. And like, because there's even a movie coming out called Till, correct?
Oh, I hadn't heard about that. But
like, there's a movie coming out about Emmett Till and about his.
I know. I can't wait until that happens.
Oh my god.
Counting down the days till I can watch it. Yeah.
Kill me now.
I don't know if if it's just in the kind of zeitgeist a little bit too. Like,
yeah.
But ultimately, right? Like, not like spoilers. Like it's a question mark, isn't it? It's not Emmett Till.
No,
it's someone intentionally garbed to be like Emmett Till, or it's just another random dead black person. But like, I think
okay. So yeah, might as well just get this all out on the table now.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of kind of big twists that happen in the book, right? So the first big twist is that this is not actually, as Paul said, there's a real world explanation for it. It is the same body, but it's just the dead body of, I think, a random black person that's been made up to look a certain
Right.
way and look a little older maybe than they are, and so on and so forth. That's placed at these scenes by the people that are really doing the murders, which is sort of like a, you know, extremist kind of group. I mean, well, that's part of the political question, right? Is this an extreme response? They're going to argue that it's not. This group, who has been sort of set up by a woman who has dedicated her life, Mama Z, who has dedicated her life to essentially archiving every instance of lynching that happened in American history, and that's kind of her life project, right?
Not
And
even
that
history,
includes-
like starting with her own father.
Starting with her own father, right?
Yeah, and then but she also includes and says that police shootings are they are compatible with
Yes.
lynchings, and then she also includes other races too, not just black people.
It's actually it's black people and it's Chinese people, and it's kind of those two, I think, exclusively in the book anyway.
And there's one chapter that just is like 3 pages of just the names of all the people that she had written down.
Well, the cover of the book, and this is Grey Wolf, who I've fucking put on blast for their covers before, but this is actually a pretty good kind of somber cover. It's almost like a little grave monument type of art object, because it's just the trees and then like a list of basically the names of everyone who's died of lynching, and that includes people like unknown male, unknown female,
Yes.
all this kind of stuff, and this sort of political and historical act of just putting names to these tragedies in the first place.
Yeah, they shout outs to Grey Wolf for this cover, because we've been critical of their covers in the
Yeah,
past.
y'all have been fucking up, so good job.
But this one's good. This one is pretty good.
Yeah.
So anyway, because
We probably use the new AI programs.
Yeah, you think Midjourney made this?
Midjourney made this cover.
List.
That would be-
Midjourney
that would
just list.
That would be amazing. That's gonna happen eventually. People are just
Yeah.
gonna use Midjourney for making all their book covers. But anyway, so this is basically, and this is the way that the detectives, Ed and Jim, ultimately sort of, and then later Herberta, who's from the FBI, joins them. We'll talk more about all of them in a bit, but this is sort of the way they track this group down, is that they realize that there's this connection back to this medical facility, this company that like essentially ships out like they take dead bodies and then they ship body parts for various things out.
It's some
to
weird
medical
cadaver.
facilities and,
Yeah. It's like a cadaver processing plant in like the meatpacking district of Chicago, I think.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So basically, this group.
It's unclear whether or not those places are actually real to me or not, but the unbelievability is added because everyone in the facility, people are like playing soccer with heads and like tossing eyeballs back and forth.
That's a very weird scene.
Very weird.
I mean, surely places like that have
They
to
must be
exist,
real,
right?
yeah.
Because like you need, like if you're a medical school, you got to get body parts for students to fucking learn on and shit. I don't know.
I know.
So someone.
Well, and they figure it out too because they have one mortician that tests the body's fluids or whatever, and she's just like, it's full of formaldehyde. I
Right.
think that was like the initial clue.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Like this body has been embalmed.
Well, but that was also I liked that detail because that at that juncture in the story, that would also have been compatible with it genuinely being like the reanimated corpse of Emmett Till or whatever, right? So it kind of fit with both kind of stories there. So anyway, this group hijacks a truck full of these dead bodies, and that's what they're using to stage these scenes. And initially, they're only targeting, as Paul said, the relatives of the people who murdered Emmett Till, whose names are escaping me at the moment. But it spirals from there, and these murders start happening all across the country, out in San Francisco, in Chicago,
Duluth, Minnesota, where I've been.
And and then things sort of escalate in a sort of schlocky zombie Night of the Living Dead type way from there.
Right, but also like potentially like biblical Judgment Day. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also
Basically,
kind of like
I mean,
race
basically,
war, like helter skelter, in a way. Too,
well,
you
yeah,
know?
and we get a couple scenes of like white nationalist groups meeting about this, and like, this is it, this is the race war, boys, like, it's finally here. This is what we've been waiting for, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Milam and Bryant are the two families.
Right.
Obviously,
And
Sharp.
then
Yeah,
Caroline, the fictionalized version of Caroline. What was her name again?
Bryant.
Shit.
Bryant, yeah.
Caroline Bryant. Yeah, she ends up dying by, which I thought was a really fucking creepy scene, where she has the idea in her head that the body is Emmett Till's, and she's like, obviously bent out of shape about it. But then you find out later that Mama Z and Gertrude put the dead body in her house, and she just like dies of fright.
Right, she just died of a heart attack.
Yeah, that whole segment of that chapter was really scary.
Yeah, I thought it was well done. I mean, it's like Everett's playing with so many different genres here, right? He's doing the detective novel thing. By the end, it goes into like full biblical apocalyptic zombie, like, end of the world type stuff.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I thought one of the funniest moments is like early on in the book. I forget which detective it is, but either Ed or Jim. They make some joke about like black ninjas, like sneaking in and out of the crime scenes with like this body, and it turns out it actually is black ninjas.
Right. Yeah.
Like, this group is all doing like martial arts training in a dojo behind a restaurant in the town.
The funniest part, I've been thinking about it for like 6 months since I've started reading this book, was early on there. It was like when they first discover that the body isn't at the morgue. And one of the last lines of the chapter is Ed or Jim saying to each other, "There's nothing to see here." And I was fucking dying, because it's like it has so many meanings in that moment. It's like, there isn't anything to see here because the body's not here, but it's also just like a thing that detectives say to, like, people at a crime scene. I was like, oh, it's the funniest fucking thing I've ever read.
I think that's this kind of thing that Everett, I think, is trying to do the most here, is like just take really tired stereotypes and like deploy them in such a way that he's saying maybe like 3 or 4 things at any given moment. Sometimes I think the touch is like very light, and sometimes it's like mega heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good example probably of like the work that Everett's trying to put in here. Like, nothing to see here.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with Paul. Like, one thing that I will say about this book is that I think in general he's as funny as ever. There's a lot of like really funny one-liners and quips and little jokes that he does throughout the text. And I think some hit and some don't, but that's always been true in the books of his that I've read anyway. But and I think the genres that he's working with, it's interesting that they're, because the book reads very cinematically to me, like it's very filmic.
It reads like a script, kind of.
Yeah, it's like almost like a film script.
Yeah.
And I think that is also probably intentional, because these genres and these tropes that he's playing with are all tropes that are often associated with like that era of like blaxploitation 70s cinema, where it's like the black buddy cop movie, or the black ninja, black kung fu movie, or like the blaxploitation horror zombie flick, you know what I mean?
Right.
Meets like an Aaron Sorkin levels witty script.
What is it? The Long Hot Friday? Is that a?
I don't know about what that one is.
Hold on, let me think of this.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think he's doing or attempting to do a lot with genre, and sort of making those film references and connections in that way. I mean, I wonder if it's a little too filmy. Like, there were periods where it really felt like I was just reading dialogue for like 50 pages almost, with very, very little like descriptive writing or internal monologue. You don't really get any internal stuff for most of the characters.
Only it really only came out when someone was being murdered. Like there was a really awesome scene also when the Reverend Fondle, which is an amazing name,
who's in the KKK.
Yeah, he gets killed, and that scene came out of nowhere, and you get his internal monologue of like how like his final moments, and that's scary.
Yeah, that was.
But we probably should talk about everyone's names too, because the names in this book are absolutely hilarious.
They're out of control.
Oh, can I
Reverend Fondle was really up there for me as one of the best ones.
Yeah,
Reverend Cad Fondle.
Cad Fondle.
Yeah.
But okay, so sorry, just like one of the many cultural references that I think he's making in the book is In the Heat of the Night is the movie I was trying to think of, with starring Sidney Poitier, about a black man unjustly accused of a murder, and he proves his innocence and then joins the police force with like a racist cop, and it's like a odd couple thing in the South.
Yes.
That's all I meant to say.
Mm-hmm. And that movie is also referenced pretty directly in I'm Not Sidney Poitier, which is a very similar thing happens in that novel as well.
There's a guy named Junior.
I mean, there's
many.
There's
a governor named Pinch Wayface, which spelled WHEY, like whey protein, which I loved.
There's a British woman named Helvetica Quip.
Yes, that was a highlight.
There are so many.
There's 3 Chinese cops whose last names comprise Ho, Chi, and Min.
Like when they all introduce themselves to each other, and it's just like, oh my god, what? This is so ridiculous.
There's a waitress named Herberta Hind, and it's Herbie Hind.
She's the FBI agent.
Yes, she's the FBI agent.
Yeah.
There's another detective or something named just Wesley Snipes.
Yep.
And they just say, not that one.
Yeah. There was another example of that too, where it was like someone with almost the exact same name as a famous person, and it's just like no relation. Like
nope,
not.
Yep.
And
Jim Davis. I mean, he's the Garfield creator, so I just wonder if like it was something like that. Ed and Jim are supposed to be like, I think maybe the most bland. Like they're just functionaries, but they have a good sense of humor and whatever. But they're pretty bland. Who else has like a crazy name?
There are so many. I feel like I underlined a few of them. There's someone named, I don't even remember who this is. I think this is someone in the black kind of, I don't know what to call them, the group, the Emmett Till revenge group.
Right.
His name is just Chester Hobnobber.
It's like something that Philip K. Dick would do completely seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even the name Sheriff Jetty made me laugh.
Yeah,
because
Red
I
Jetty.
also felt
Red Jetty.
Yeah.
Reverend Dr. Fondle.
Yeah.
Cad Fondle's pretty much just like, fuck you. It's just like, nasty molester person.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to see, because I know there were a few more that really got me. I'll see if I can find them.
I just laughed at Wesley Snipes. Just like
Wesley Snipes.
just like you already get hit with so many, and then they're just like, and then this guy's named Wesley Snipes. Just chill. It's not.
And I was trying to
Taggart Muldoon.
Yeah.
Chancey Boatwright.
There's the academic character, who's named Damon Nathan Thruff, which I always thought was which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, anyway, there's a lot, and it's like I was trying to figure out, like, is he doing something with all these names? Like, is there a point to this, or is he just being fucking weird and goofy?
And then Mama Z, right? The 105-year-old matriarch,
the ringleader.
The ringleader, his last name is actually Lynch.
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't have to do a lot of unpacking there, but yeah.
Well, yeah, because it varies between these, like, clearly, what's the like technical literary term for like a name? It's like oh my god.
Allegorical?
Yeah, like it's like when like we've been joking about since we read like Pilgrim's Progress. It's just the name of just like John Badman or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
there's some of them that are like that, but then some of them are just like like the Cad Fondle or Mama Lynch or whatever. But then there's just Wesley Snipes, just like
Right,
fucking
and Ho
just
Chi Minh.
and
It's
Ho Chi
just
Minh.
like
That just
And
feels
Herbie
so
Hind.
fucking random.
and her behind, yeah. I think like in part, like Everett himself is like kind of using the like because with these
Delroy Digby. Found that one. That was a funny one.
with these hard boiled novels, he's kind of doing a little bit of like the Stan Lee thing where it's like he's just using alliterative names to make it easy to remember, like Peter Parker, or you know what I mean, like that was the thing, but also like using Everett himself using basically racial stereotypes a lot of the time, or like just sort of like caricatures of types of people. It seems just to kind of like get your goat a little bit, but also like make you laugh at the same time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
it's a very weird affect.
well, it's kind of strange because I feel like what he's doing is essentially like content form power clashing. Like he's got this genre that he's trying to comport to as something of like a constraint, it feels like, for what genuinely for the most part feels like an immense rage.
Yeah,
Like I will say this book is fucking so pissed and angry, and like rightfully so. And like this kind of choice to choose something so silly and broad feels a little bit like a potentially a method to temper those emotions,
yeah,
and filter them through humor, which is a very common way to filter, heavy feeling, right? Like black humor and stuff, pun intended. And it's like, that's what some of these characters feel like to me. It's like Ho Chi Minh. It's like, it's racist, but it's like, it's still funny, and it's still like, these people are introduced because also like, for whatever reason, like, I guess during the like this particular time period in the development of America, like Chinese were also lynched, which is something that I feel like I learned, was like that that was something that also like occurred with similar prevalence.
A ton of violence towards Asians, in particularly in like as we were building the like transcontinental railroads and stuff, and expanding westward to San, because they were the ones who were doing that work at that point, right? And then of course
another competing like labor force that like we were pissed at, because like then the like Mexicans are mentioned by like Muldoon, who gets murdered, as like stealing jobs as well. And that in Tripmaster Monkey we learned about we're reminded, I suppose, about the like Chinese Exclusion Act and all that kind of stuff from like the 1800s.
Yeah, I think what you said is right on in terms of his because there's a comment that Mama Z makes to Damon Thruff, who is this kind of like very like brilliant on paper but very nerdy academic who is like studies the history of like race and blah 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 blah, right? And he knows Gertrude, the waitress, I forget exactly how, and she kind of calls him down because she wants him to sort of document this project and kind of put it into language that will help it make sense to people on the outside, or something like that, right?
I think they were like alumni at like a particular like Ivy League or something.
Yeah, I think they went to college together. But Mama Z makes a comment to him at one point that she read his book, which is of course like an academic text, and was like, I don't know how you can talk about these topics and write about them with no hint of anger whatsoever. And it feels like this is Everett's sort of, performative doing that, except with anger.
Or it's his combination. Yeah, like you said, it's like he's doing it with anger. Because it's like because then Damon's response is like, I think that like the dry presentation of these facts should elicit the anger. And this book,
Right.
feels like an attempt to do both. An attempt to just display a list of people and kind of like recall that history, but also not be like purely like, and those are the facts and that's what's written. And, like...
Just the facts, ma'am.
Yeah. They
I
don't
felt
care about
like-
your feelings,
After reading a bit more about like his previous works, I can't. You haven't read Erasure, have you, Gabe?
No, I haven't. I've only read those other two.
Apparently, that one tackles like racism too in like the publishing world. It just felt like to me, like I wish I would have read that one first, just to see where his like trajectory went over his life, because I think this is his most recent book, right?
Yep.
And for it to just be a little bit more outwardly angry is just interesting to me, and I kind of wish I would have read the other highly race heavy book he read before this one, but I just have to do it.
I mean, all of his books that I've read, at least the other two, they're about race to some degree, or he's there's racial humor. There's like obviously like I'm Not Sidney Poitier is more about race than like the Percival Everett by Virgil Russell, I think, but it's always there for him. You know what I mean? It's just a clearly a topic that he thinks a lot about and has a lot to say about. And I think in this book, it's sort of just the, I don't know about the culmination of those feelings, but like certainly this is one dimension of his thoughts on it.
Well, he's also been mixed by his own admissions, like by like other stuff I've listened to. I think he's been back and forth on this issue. Like, I think there are moments where I think he feels very strongly that this is something to be like tackled directly and angry about. But then there's other times where I've heard him in more contemplative modes, and he's like, I don't even know what, like, race isn't real. Like he's been like pretty vocal about that. He's like,
Right.
I don't know what post-racial means in America, because it's not, but also like, he's basically like boils it down to like, unless we're talking about individuals, I don't really know how to even defend the concept.
Yeah,
and in this feels very different from like that assessment from like, I don't know, 6 years prior, 7 years prior, when
Right.
I think that video came out.
Yeah, totally. Because I've listened to that video, I think, as well, and it is But then again, it's like it could have just all built up, and this was published during the Trump administration, and Trump is mentioned in it, and it just definitely feels just like a huge release of anger, like you guys have been saying.
It feels like something that gestated and was born out of like the hysteria around Trump in a way that, it just colors it very much. Like it's anger about a moment.
Well, and obviously all the highly publicized shootings and Black Lives Matter and all that was all
right.
in that mix.
The things that were precipitated by and like during that time, which is a lot, but like, it does feel like a reaction to that very like that 4-year basically reign of this person.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of like obviously the setting is important, and it being in the South, and it's like it's this very literal reimagining of the Faulkner quote, which I won't repeat because I'm sick of saying it and hearing it. But
you said it a bunch.
You all know the one I'm talking about. And
say it again.
No, I'm not gonna say it. I don't want to say it. I don't like saying it.
Say it.
Yeah, I feel like fucking Bart Simpson in the meme. Say the thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, because at the end of the book, it's literally like all of the dead bodies of the people who've been lynched or had killed in racial violence literally like are rising up out of the ground and just like killing white people, right? Like and like going across the country in like just hordes, and it's just a zombie apocalypse basically.
Well, he even goes as far as like the first, the two police officers. I think they're money police officers that get killed by like the first crowd of black people. He describes the crowd and when I read the description of the crowd, it was just like he described it like zombies.
I
think
mean, what
it
else?
was.
What else could they be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
because of course, right? Like the group, the ninjas, their initial goal was to only kill like 3 people, right?
And they kind of did it.
3 or 4 people or something, and so they did that. But then all these other people start dying, and so it's almost like they kickstart this historical process that had just been sort of like waiting for some kind of catalyst. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It snowballs. And it just starts. What?
Yeah, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it goes as far as like, people in political office start getting killed and they all have funny names. And then I'm not sure if Trump does get killed, but there's like
the White House
vice
is under
president
attack.
or someone gets killed and he's like calling for his bunker.
Oh, okay. Here's another, because you mentioned Pinch Wayface. One of my other favorite names, just because at the end he just starts kind of jumping around, and he's showing you news reports from Chicago and interviews on TV from Arkansas, and he takes you into the White House and shows you what's going on in the Trump room, and he's really jumping around a lot. But another character name, and this is from it's supposed to be like a governor interview in Arkansas or South Carolina, Pinch Wayface, but the sheriff is named Chalk Pellicid.
That's just 2 words. He's just starting to put 2 words. He's just been putting 2 words together.
What does this mean, man? So but
they're just getting whiter and whiter, because that's all it really is.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
true. But I was sort of wondering, like, was your interpretation, because at the end, Ed and Jim, after a bunch of stuff, and they got locked in a freezer, and there might blah blah blah, but they finally make it back to Mama Z's, who's again the kind of mastermind of all of this, and she has the Thruff, the academic, just kind of copying down the names of all these people that she's documented over the years, and like the book basically ends with her posing this question to them over and over, like, do you want me to stop this?
Yeah.
And that's basically the way the book ends, which I think is really an interesting place to leave it. But was your interpretation that like she actually was making all of this happen, even though the other people in the group didn't realize that it was going to spiral into this thing? Or was she just kind of, happy that it was happening? Because she implies that she has the power to make it stop if she's asking, right?
Yeah,
well, she says, "Shall I stop him?"
True. Shall I stop him from copying down the names? So yeah, it's ambiguous.
It is. I mean, my impression was it was her. Like my impression. I mean, she's yet another one of these stereotypes that's used in an interesting way, where she is literally like the fucking voodoo witch, magical black woman who's ancient and has like ancient knowledge.
Yep.
So there's like that kind of like racist trope going on with her, but at the end of the day she's like this kind of repository for the historical memory of like a stretch of time. And I got the impression she knew she was like basically casting a spell that would like allow the gates of fucking the underworld to open and like let the dead rise.
Yeah, that was kind of my interpretation too. And I think, I don't know, I think this question of like putting it to all of these other characters, who I think by the end of the book, when they all get to her, everyone is black, right? The detectives, I think everyone that's in that scene. And so she's sort of asking them, these people with disparate backgrounds, disparate careers, disparate, like experiences, like, how do you feel about this? Like, this is, like, this is sort of, the return of the repressed in a very violent, like zombie like way. Like, is this justice? Is this what justice looks like? Is this what is this what we want? Right?
Yeah. Well, and there's
for
like
her,
this
I
whole,
think the answer is obviously yes.
And there's this whole, sub theme about the NBI agents Ed and Jim, and then the FBI agent Hind being, you know, an upper level law enforcement and being black. And there's this great
Yes.
scene where Hind meets Mama Z, I believe, and she's like, Mama Z's just like kind of doesn't trust her and giving her shit, and Hind doesn't like necessarily know why or like it, because I think the answer she gives is like, well, if there has to be law enforcement, shouldn't there be black people in law enforcement to like kind of, you know, level the playing field and just have allies in those positions? And then there's a really great scene where they it's not great, it's like kind of terrifying, where all three of the detectives get pulled over in Mississippi.
Yes.
By a white racist sheriff or police officer or something, and it just escalates quickly. He doesn't believe that they're actually agents, and he's like threatening to draw his gun, and it's not until he like they show him their badges, which he kind of doesn't even believe that they're real, but they somehow get out of the situation. But it almost felt like one of them was about to get shot in that situation. But
yeah. Well, and they talk about that fear, right? And I think Everett handles on the Mama Z conversation that she has with Hind, I thought was really funny, and because she, Hind says to her, right, like, well, shouldn't we have a seat at the table in politics and in law enforcement stuff? And Mama Z just goes, no. And Hind is like, well, why not? And Mama Z is like, it's bad company, and I don't keep bad company.
Yeah, that was the line.
That's
great.
a based answer. For real.
That's fucking based, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Everett handles that line of like black people in law enforcement and in government positions like really, really well and really subtly, and kind of we hear about their own sort of mixed feelings about it a lot throughout the book, you know?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I was trying to relate that to the ending, and I kind of lost train of thought of her asking, like,
is
should
this
I stop
justice?
this?
Is this
Yeah.
justice?
Yeah.
And they are like the meters out of justice, presumably, or like superficially or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, they're kind of questioning their, like, in that moment at the end, they're kind of questioning everything that has happened to them and probably throughout their whole careers, and just being like, is this actually what we want in this moment? Is this okay?
Well, they potentially found a murderer. They potentially found the precipitator of murders. Like, they know,
Yeah.
like white people who with quote unquote innocence are being slaughtered. And
Yeah.
then so the question is heavy. It's like,
well, it's also
do you want me
heavy
to
too
stop?
because also at that point, if she isn't the one, manifesting everything, and they did just commit those 3 murders, it's like they're probably just like, well, there seems to be way bigger problems now, and even if you started this, maybe we should just let you get away with that, because potentially those were justified. There's a lot going on in their heads in that moment.
It makes me wonder, like, if Everett, because like we've talked about already, some of his kind of ambivalence or sort of mixed feelings about these sorts of questions politically, in terms of his interviews that he's given and other things that we've read of his and things we've heard him say. But it makes me wonder if, like, he's not in some ways doing like a reductio ad absurdum critique of a certain mentality, right? From his perspective, like, is this, because it starts out, right, like, with already something that I think is morally questionable, at least, right, which is the killing of the descendants of people who did an evil thing, right? And then it goes into this essentially indiscriminate racialized slaughter, right? Which of course is what happened originally back, like when the lynchings and all these things were that's sort of what America was for a long time. And then poses this really, really big question of like, is that happening again? Justice, is that the right thing? Obviously it's not going to undo anything that happened in the past, but is it in some sense what should happen?
Right. and prior to that question, you know, like,
So answer yes or no, both of you. I'm joking.
yeah, I think I mean it's morally questionable whether or not
Is that time?
to do that to begin with is yeah, I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Wait.
Oh God, actually,
that's Patreon only.
Saved by the fucking bell.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I won't. I don't think it's. I don't think I have just a straight yes or no, obviously, for something like that. But it's like,
I was joking.
I know.
I don't think Everett does either, though. That's the
Right.
thing.
That's
Of
what I was trying to
course.
say.
Yeah.
But he's painted. The other thing is this is what I think is the most fascinating thing about the book is like. He's been hammering so unsubtly the whole book, like everyone is like a fucking idiot, like racist, like the worst, just drunk redneck,
Yes.
fat, fucking stupid, poor, you know, all of this shit. So he's really like rendering basically every Southern character as that, and so he's like. I feel like he's doing the pulp thing, like he's doing the same stereotypical treatment that like people of other races got in
Yes.
said pulp genres, right? Like
Exactly.
just no quarter, just no charity, just like
No
you're just
subtlety.
the worst version of whatever. And then still asking after rendering every one of these people just like hateable and barely human, and he's still like, do they deserve this? Or something,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it makes it.
Which
It
I
does
think
make
is super powerful because that's the question that was never asked, even in the context of the dehumanization of people of color.
Right.
You know, for most of American history.
right. Yeah. So he's also like primed your brain to maybe even be weighed on the side of no, but only because he's trying to reenact in brevis kind of like the fucking 100 years of propaganda against people who weren't white in the U.S.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it actually is borderline time.
Oh, really?
We're 5 minutes off the hour.
Let's wrap it up for
So-
the non pay pigs.
The non-pay pigs.
Yeah, those hogs with those
So,
cash.
if you want to hear the rest of the discussion, which is going to be really fruitful, I expect, that'll be over on our Patreon, patreon.com/spinecrackers, where we post the full episode for all of our episodes, as well as other sorts of videos, and me being drunk and playing Dark Souls, and Paul doing aesthetic cooking.
Right.
And all
Warts
kinds
and
of-
all.
Yeah, all kinds
And
of
I
good
have some
stuff.
more ideas that will be released soon, too.
Hell yeah.
New special ideas.
Hell yeah. So that's all over on the Patreon, patreon.com/spinecrackers for as little as $2 a month. Come on. What are you going to do? You don't need that extra, pack of gum this
Yeah,
month.
what are you gonna buy? 6
Yeah.
gumballs?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on over here, give us your money, be a bone hog, and just, go on Discord.
Did you say bone hog?
Yeah.
That sounds like the name of someone in this book. This would be like Jackster Bone Hog.
That's a good name. I like that.
I
name.
like that too.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that'll be over there. In the meantime, we'll wrap this episode up by doing what we do at the end of every episode, which is.
Expelliarmus. Chocolate frogs.
And so I just want to shout out the sponsor of this week's show, Hogwarts Legacy, the new video game.
Open world. Who's excited?
I'm joking.
You don't have to be Harry Potter. You can be any matriculated wizard at Hogwarts.
That's right. No, I'm kidding. We are not sponsored by Hogwarts Legacy yet. Give us a call, Warner Brothers. How fucking funny would that be? It's just like we get like 40 listens per episode, and like sponsored by Warner Brothers.
Yeah. Can we please be sponsored by one of the big 3 media conglomerates, please?
This Spinecrackers, a Warner Brothers podcast.
Yeah.
What if J.K. Rowling wanted to sponsor us?
Just personally.
Just personally,
God.
would we accept it or
no.
no?
It's just us. It's
I-
just us. It's like the end of this book. It's us hovering around the computer, being like, "Do you want me to stop?"
Yeah. I mean, everyone's got a price, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
a good moral question because
Yeah.
you could get a lot of money.
Great moral question.
We'll cross that bridge when we inevitably get to it, of course.
Yeah, the
I wouldn't do it.
Ruberon.
I wouldn't do it.
I don't think
JK.
I don't think I
Rowling.
Did you guys hear
I
my
would do it.
joke?
No, what'd you say?
No.
Crossing the Ruberon.
Wait, what?
What?
Ron Weasley.
Oh my god. Stop. Oh no, dude.
Oh hell yeah.
Okay, woo, that was good. Okay, we were scatting and bebopping in there and
Oh my god, the notes we weren't
Yeah,
playing
we
were
were
crazy.
So anyway, the reason we're joking about Harry Potter is because this is the segment that we do at the end of every show where we put the major characters from the book that we literally just read. So you can't dog us for talking about Harry Potter
Yeah,
because we just read another book.
we took our vitamins.
And we took our vitamins, we had our vegetables, and now we get to talk about Harry Potter. And we put all the characters.
Once this is over, I'm going to read Harry Potter.
Little palate cleanser. It's like sniffing espresso beans before your next course.
That's right. Paul's just watching the gameplay trailer for Hogwarts Legacy on loop as he falls asleep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do watch that quite a bit.
I watched it. It looks good. I'm excited.
It looks good.
Yeah. And we put the characters from the book into their respective Harry Potter houses. As we've already said, there's a lot of characters in this book. And we don't, I would say we don't get a ton of the internal life of most of them.
Yeah. Per the pulp fiction sort of style, people don't have interiority, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's just do a couple. Let's do like four.
Okay.
And Ed and
We have to
Jim
do.
can
Ed
kind of
and
be
Jim
one
have to
person.
be. They're like a single entity almost.
yeah,
They're almost like
very-
Harry and Ron.
They're literally Abbott and Costello. They're like fat and skinny, respectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them.
Gryffindors.
I mean, and I think, Which one is the like the one that initially flirts with Gertrude at the restaurant?
Jim,
right? Okay.
And they're the ones
Ed-
that like kind of embrace at the end, and if this ever turns into a movie, they'll kiss at the end of the freezer.
Yes.
yeah, and I'm shipping them.
They're shipped. They're fully shipped.
Yeah.
I feel like Ed is like a little bit more kind of serious, but they're both very like sardonic, you know what I mean? Like both like very just like deadpan and like detached and sort of like the way that he writes the racism just kind of like washing over them and like them having to be like literally just like interviewing people and just being just called the N-word to their face. Like,
It's absolutely
constantly,
terrible.
Like you're a detective investigating a murder, and they're just like, yep. And someone's like, well, no offense, I just said the N-word, and they're like, yeah, none taken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's so fucking depressing.
Yeah.
But
Or they'll like be talking to police officers, and the cop will like refer a black dead person over there, and just about to be starting to say the N-word, and they'll be like, sorry. They're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And then they'll be like Afro-American, like
Yeah.
super stiffly.
Well, yeah. I think Ed and Jim probably would be in the same house. I don't think we have enough evidence to really. I think Jim is pretty Gryffindor though. He getting locked in the or no, maybe he's Ravenclaw because he comes up with a pretty clever idea to blow open the door of the freezer.
Yeah, I was gonna say they were both Ravenclaw. I feel like they have a sort of intelligent and detached kind of perspective on their entire job and their
So if you're
their
like
role.
If you're like a MacGyver type person that does anything like that ever, you're a Ravenclaw? Is that what you're saying?
Ravenclaw smart. Ravenclaw smart, clever. That's it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
it.
joking.
No, I just also, they're not doing anything of outward bravery, but they do seem like to even have gotten in the positions they're at and to like kind of just sort of like see through this entire investigation feels very Ravenclaw. You know, feels very inquisitive by nature and kind of scientifically observational in a way.
One of my favorite lines in the book is like, I forget how they start talking about it, but there's a lot of great. I mean, like it's like buddy cop movie for a time, right? And they're in the car and like they're talking about criminals, and maybe it was like we got in the wrong line of work or something, and he's like, if I were a criminal, I would do such and such, and then the other one's like, you wouldn't last a day as a criminal. You're not smart enough.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was like, that's a really funny line. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ravenclaw for both.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Gryffindor for both. I just feel like you got to be a brave black man in Mississippi to join the force and then
For sure.
work the ranks up in a white patriarchal business that is probably the NBI, if that is even a real thing.
It's real.
Did you guys? It is.
Yeah,
but the thing about that is like, how many other states have an M? Like Montana, Minnesota, Missouri.
Yeah. I think
so are they all all
it.
NBI?
I don't know. They might have different names for it.
Okay. I believe you.
I don't know. I didn't look into it, but I think it's real. So yeah, it's a real thing.
All states have like a state level, equivalent of the FBI.
I know. But I was just, I don't know what my problem is here.
Yeah. You seem like you're hung up on this for some reason.
I'm just like, my brain's shorting out because I'm just like,
It's the same acronym. For
what
a lot
about
of them,
Minnesota?
you're right.
Is just NBI? Okay.
Yeah.
Probably.
All right.
All
Minnesota BI.
right. Minnesota Min BI. We're min-maxing our law enforcement in Minnesota. That should be their slogan. Okay, let's see. Who do we want to do next? Mama Z?
Mama Z's Gryffindor.
Sure.
I mean, she does have her principles and she sticks to them no matter what.
Yeah.
That's
she's
for
Gryffindor.
sure.
Gryffindor
Yeah.
Witch, which is also a Harry Potter term.
Gryffindor
so she
Witch.
can see to the world pretty well.
Right.
Yeah, I think Gryffindor. We don't have to get in the weeds about our moral evaluations of her actions, but I think
Not yet.
in terms
Wait for
of
the Patreon only.
Yeah, it's Patreon only, dude. Spoiler alert: uncritical support. No.
Kill them all.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Gryffindor for Mama Z is pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
agree.
right, who should we do next? We can do maybe Gertrude and or Herberta.
I'm gonna.
Gertrude, I would say Ravenclaw.
Yeah, and Herberta, I would say Gryffindor.
Why would? I think Herberta's Gryffindor. She's very,
She did it as like a prove yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Gertrude is like, again, to comport to a stereotype, which this book is not about. She's brainy, and I don't know. She's brave in the sense that she's willing to like join some sort of resistance, sort of local terrorist kind of organization. You're muted, dude.
You're muted, Gabe.
My bad. She does also get the wool pulled over her eyes by Mama Z, and she's just kind of following, arguably blindly, Mama Z's lead.
Oh,
Yeah.
so is she a Hufflepuff?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Ooh. Actually, that's a great... Yeah. I think she may be that.
And she
stamping it.
basically worships
Stamping
Mama
Huff.
Z. She's loyal to Mama Z.
I was blinded and now I see.
I think she's Puff.
Yeah.
All right. If I did have a Hufflepuff stamp, I would stamp her name
All
right
right,
now.
stamped as a Puff.
Puff.
All right, cool. That's Harry Potter. Do you guys have a word?
I actually don't, and I'm not going to look for one. I just forgot to do it. I'm
So
sorry.
this is the other segment that we do on the show and all intermittently participate in, where we find a word from the book that we just read where we didn't know the word, or initially conceived as a Scrabble segment. So find a good Scrabble word or an interesting word or a new word to us from the book that we just read. And mine is actually on the first page in the third line, and it's nescience.
God, Gabe, you've done it again.
Me and Matt pick the same word every fucking time.
Every time. You've done it again.
I'm sorry. Well, you went first last time and stole mine. So I
Okay,
went
I don't have a replacement.
No, that's fine. We can have the same one because
Can we share?
Yeah, we can share.
Can you guys
nescience.
divorce your girlfriends and kiss each other already?
Yeah.
Jeesh.
Unironically, yes.
No, it'd be terrible. We'd both just be like constantly stepping on each other's toes.
Like, it's my turn to play Elden Ring.
It would be. That reminds me of last or like 2 summers ago when we were in Connecticut at the camp, and there was like a room full of people, and we were playing a game where like everyone, there was like 15 people in the room, and it was late at night, no electricity, and it was a game of like everyone just had to say something like potato chip brand or something, or cars, and I forget what you guys were going back and forth on, but it ended up just being you two for like 45 minutes going back and forth, and everyone's just like, what are we doing with our lives? Like, why are we still listening to these people?
It was put to a stop because someone said, "I'm not having fun."
Yeah. You guys were like there was like sweat beating down your brows.
I think it might have been horror movies.
Yeah, that would be something that we could probably go far.
That one went pretty long, if I remember correctly.
So nescience can be yours and mine.
Yeah, and it just means stupid, basically. It means ignorant.
Yeah, lacking knowledge. Yeah.
And as we said, like this is a little bit tricky with this book because the book is very straightforwardly written. It's not a lot of difficult language or anything, and a lot of it is just sort of dialogue written from the perspective of essentially nescient people. So
nice.
Yeah. So you're not getting a lot of $3 words, as they might say in Money, Mississippi.
Right.
All right. Well, that only leaves one thing before we move to the Patreon segment, and y'all know what that is. We got to score this boy up. I'll go first. That's fine. So Paul gets to go last because it's his pick. That's house rules.
I feel like I haven't gone last in so long. I'm happy.
Paul's happy to go last.
We're glad.
And so okay, so here's the deal. All right. I loved Percival Everett by Virgil Russell. Favorite book of the last year. First 5.0 ever given out on the show by anyone to any book. And I really liked I'm Not Sidney Poitier as well. We didn't do that on the show, but I really enjoyed it. I thought this was kind of mid. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
I think I get intellectually, I think, a lot of what he was doing with the genre and the scope and the way he approached the writing. I think it conceptually got a little out of his control. To the point where the end of it felt like really kind of like rushed and underexplored in terms of like the implications and what was genuinely just like what was happening. And I think, of course, like that ambiguity is part of it. I love Dark Souls. Ambiguity is
you
good.
Do? Wait, you do?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I like those games. Okay.
What is that?
And but I don't know. And I felt like some of the moments that felt like they really should have hit didn't hit as much. Some of them did. The chapter that's just the names of the people, that hits, and the way that's like incorporated in the cover and all that. And there's a number of other scenes, but I kind of just felt like by the end a little bit like throwing my hands up in a not in an exasperated way per se, but in like a what type of way. I think it's an important book. It's clear that he was sort of like taking a different approach to these subjects than he has in at least what I've read of his past work. I think writing a book like this with that anger that he chastises the academics for not writing with, or that he has Mama Z do, who knows if that's on his behalf or not. Because I would say Percival Everett in his other writing, he's sort of an academic. He is literally an academic. He's a professor. Yeah. And he's sort of an academic writer in a lot of ways. And so maybe there was some like self-hatred in that he was trying to work through in this book.
It feels like he's spurning himself a bit for being the way he had been maybe for a lot of other books.
Yeah, and I don't know if it fully maybe it was just something that was more for him to do, that he needed to do for himself, which is great. Right. but I don't know. I don't. It didn't fully click for me in some ways. And I don't even get me started on the Trump chapter. We'll have to talk about that in the Patreon.
Sure.
I'll just say, writers, don't fucking write about Trump. Just don't. Just don't. Just no.
Yeah.
Don't try to fictionalize. I mean, you can write about not like art, like nonfiction and stuff, but it's not funny. It's never funny. You just come off like a '90s or like a Bush era like hack political cartoonist, and it doesn't work.
You might as well be a Green Day Rock Against Trump album.
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean?
that's really how it inevitably comes off to me, and that's what happened here. It's one chapter, minor gripe, obviously, but it is one of those deeply cringe things that you hate to see it, and I wish he didn't even attempt it. Okay, anyway, so all of that being said, I think it's like I don't know. It's like a 3.35 for me.
Okay. Yeah, as like Nescience, I feel similarly to Gabe. A lot of what he said were points that I would make. Like I said, the kind of power clashing that's going on with the sort of form that he chose to encapsulate far more ambitious ideas and things that required some subtlety that just didn't work for me with like the pulpy satirical caricatures of people and whatever at all points. Like it just, there were too many moments where those felt at odds as opposed to creating an interesting creative tension. Yeah, like Gabe said, the ending was underexplored and felt therefore a little half-baked. I was disappointed in this one a bit too. I think it's also mid, especially after the just the sort of heaps of praise it was given. I don't even know if I'd go so far as to call it important. I mean, I think like understandable on Everett's part, and for some people probably something that would be a very cathartic and or like paradigm shifting thing to read. But yeah, it just felt like it kind of collapsed in on itself. Too many things at odds, and too many things competing for salience, the silliness with the seriousness and all this kind of stuff. I know a lot of people criticizing this book, or the criticisms that do exist, were sort of similar. I think some people weren't expecting Everett to be funny, period, with this subject matter.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which he's been elsewhere, in my opinion, to greater effect.
Yeah, there's also other books that he's written that would probably delve into some of these issues more effectively. And I don't know, there's other books we've even read on this podcast that feel more effective in that regard. Yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm going with a 2.9.
Whoo, baby, spice.
Wow.
All right, Paul.
Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I generally am right around the same scoring and same thoughts as you guys. I'm not going to reiterate too much, but the positive things that I took away though is just like Everett's wit is just so off the charts. You just like I read this just hoping that some of it would like rub off on me, you know what I mean? Just like it's still incredibly funny, and the the juxtaposition between the subject matter and the humor is just it's at least refreshing and new. I've never really read a book that tried to tackle that kind of thing. And I just wanted to say too, like the ability Everett has to end 100+ chapters in that same kind of mysterious, witty, quippy way that pulp detective stories do end up trying to end, like with some one-liner. For him to do it over 100 times or whatever is just is incredible.
Just like CSI Miami did it at the beginning of every episode, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But they also they had like a week to whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I think I agree though that towards the end it just kind of, I was like almost rolling my eyes. Maybe that's too harsh, but the Trump chapter just felt like looking at a high school drawing of someone who drew Trump with like blood coming out of his eyes or something. You know, it wasn't great. But I still think it's worth a read because I mean we're a bunch of spine crackers, emphasis on the crackers, and you know
yes,
I'm always interested.
You can't say that online anymore.
We're a bunch of peckerwoods, dude.
Yeah.
Bleep that out. But you know, you gotta. At least I tried to think like if I was a person of color reading this book, what would my reaction to it be? What would my experience of it be? It'd probably be like very.
I mean,
different.
I think that
maybe it would
down
just
that
be...
road lies madness, and probably bad takes.
Oh, okay. Patreon only.
Yeah, we can talk about it later.
But yeah, but I kind of agree with Matt though. Like important, I'm not sure, but worthy of a read, yes. I think I'm gonna give it a 3.2345645.
Nice, dude. Granular.
I love that for you.
Atomic numbers level.
Yeah. All right, well, that's The Trees by Percival Everett, nominated for the longlisted. I don't know how these fucking literature awards work. What's the difference between?
Is that worse or better than shortlisted?
It's so stupid.
Yeah,
it's got to be worse because the long list is like here's some. It's basically just
longer.
It's longer, and then they cut it down, and they have the short one, and then do they cut it down again and have the actual nominees? It just feels stupid. Just do one list and have honorable mentions. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, be normal.
Yeah, be normal. Fuck you, Booker Prize.
Be normal with the list, you freaking elitist pigs.
Yeah, you suck.
You're British, so you know you're like, ew, I wonder how we can make it even more patrician and aristocratic.
I hope you're cleansed
I think we should make this list
in the racial zombie reckoning.
Yeah, you're already on fire, so things are happening.
All right, everybody. Like we said, if you want to hear the rest of the discussion, patreon.com/spinecrackers for as little as $2 a month. Welcome any new viewers from our viral Dark Souls boss tier list video.
Yeah, they did not make it this far.
A little change of pace, but if you made it this far, you're a legend and you're one of the elect.
Yeah, that's right. And all right, see you all next time.
Bye-bye.